the heart and soul behind every business. Stories. Welcome to Business Story of the Week, hosted by me, Joshua Laurie. From setbacks to comebacks, from tragedies to triumphs, we inspire entrepreneurs through conversations that matter. Witness the magic that turns dreams into reality. Whether it's your career, business, or life, your success is always one story away. This is Business Story of the Week.
Hi, this is Jan Blanc, and welcome to Business Story of the Week.
Fantastic. And that is the man himself. He is our guest for today, Jan Blanc. My name is Joshua. I'm your host for today. Every week, every episode, every day, we ask you a question. And we start this off with a question like we always do. And today's question is quite, it's a self-explanatory question. If you could help someone in need without any cost or effort, would you? Would you not? I think it's a question that it's easy to answer, but I think it needs to be asked more often today. Well, Jan today is going to provide us a little bit more insight into what he does and what he does through his publishing and through his experiments as well. Jan Blanc was born and raised in the Netherlands. In 2001, he moved to the US in order to pursue his graduate degree in biblical studies. After 6 years of teaching at a seminary, he went into sales and marketing. In 2019, he started The Cost of Christ and publishes classic Christian ebooks as part of an affiliate program, whereby churches and ministries will receive 50% for each purchase. Through his work, Jan also supports persecuted Christians by distributing Bibles through the Bible Challenge. And of course, today we're also going to try to talk about the Christian experiment and what that is. Jan, thank you for coming on the show. How are you doing?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. It's a privilege and certainly a blessing. I'm doing fine. I'm actually having dealt with a little cold, so my voice is a little off, but I'm sure I'll be doing fine. And it's 10:39 p.m. here in America, and normally I think I'm in bed, but I'm excited to be on your show.
Jan, of course, I am honored that you took this time. I understand it's not the earliest of the times as well. I myself got off a flu, but we're here. We're both here together, and a blessing indeed. Jan, I always try to start this with the origin. What was the Jan Blanc? What was the Jan Blanc, right? What was the Jan Blanc, right? What was he like? Was he always, he always was going to get into publishing? Was he always involved in the church community? What would the young Jan say to the Jan of today?
Well, I was born and raised in the Netherlands, and in the Netherlands, it's soccer. Soccer is the main sport, and so according to my parents, I was 3 when I received a soccer ball, and obviously it should be football instead of soccer. And I was inseparable from that ball, so I would play every single day, except Sundays, because I was raised in a kind of a strict Christian environment, and so my parents did not want me to be active on Sundays. Um, but apart from that, I love soccer. It was kind of my whole life.
Wow. And Jan, of course, I love, first of all, by the way, I love that you called it soccer, making sure that we cater to our American audience, the US audience is we're out there, but of course, football is the proper term.
Right,
But Jan,
right.
talk to us about the move from, migrating from the Netherlands here to the US. What was that like for you, and what was the reason behind moving to the US?
I will try to make it as short as possible because it is a lengthy
Please.
story. But when I was about 12, my brother gave me 2 books. One was called The Cross and the Switchblade, by David Wilkerson, and the other one was Run Baby Run by Nicky Cruz. And it's a true story that happened in New York City in 1958, where a country preacher went to New York and worked under the gangs. And a famous gang leader came a believer in Jesus. And that story, as a 12-year-old, fascinated me so tremendously that I wanted to go to New York. I wanted to see what it was like. And so when I was 19, I did volunteer work at the church in New York City, pastored by David Wilkerson. And that's how I got my love for America. And so migrating to America when I was 27 on a permanent basis was absolutely a dream come true. And I did it on a work scholarship where I would work at a Christian academy and a Christian seminary while pursuing my doctorate degree.
Wow. Wow. Well, of course, on when was it that was it always were you always involved in the church back in the Netherlands? But now that you've come here to you went to the US, but you were pursuing education, so to speak. When did the church tie into that? How were you involved in how did you continue to be involved in the church when you migrated to the US?
Well, again, I'll try to make it short, but again, it's a lengthy story.
Please, okay.
So I grew up in a very strict Christian church, and obviously your audience is a diverse audience from all walks of life,
Mm.
all different kinds of religions. Talking about the Christian faith, my upbringing was very, very strict, and that influenced me in such a way that I viewed God as a kind of as a boogeyman. You do something wrong, and he
I see.
slaps you immediately without any love, mercy, and grace. And so living like that was extremely taxing on me because you always try to measure up. But when you talk about God, there is no measuring up. His standard is always higher than what we can achieve. And so I live, the term is called legalism, where you try to earn your way to heaven. And so I lived like that for about 10 years, almost a decade. And those were very difficult years. But when I was in my early 20s, I was reading the Bible, and Jesus made a statement to the Pharisees. And the Pharisees, as you may know, were very strict. They didn't really care about people, they cared about rules. And Jesus told them,
Yeah.
he says, you read the Bible, you search the scriptures, but the scriptures are all about me, all about Jesus. And so that was kind of an eye opener. Instead of reading the Bible from a very legalistic point of view, from what must I do, to reading the Bible from, hey, this book is about Jesus, who he is, and what he has done for me. And that was a major turning point when I was 21.
Wow. So this is quite the turning point and but also relatable, right, Jan? Because I feel like on the journey to whichever religion you are, and especially if you're brought up in a very strict type of religious household, it's always about like the rules, so to speak. But a lot of times it becomes a lot more about man-made rules than really what you know earning your way into heaven, so to speak, like you
Right.
said. Jan, where do you separate that line really? Because it gets so muddled, especially when you're raised in a strict household. It's so easy to go like, hey, these are the rules, these are what's been told, this is how you earn your way into heaven. I love that you brought this up, Jan, because I think it's apart from the topics that we're with with the causes that you do and the topics that we're going to talk about. I think this one particular one is a great question to ask because if you were raised in a strict household, it really becomes more about the rules and living by those rules in order to earn your way into heaven. Jan, what was quite the where did you draw the line, so to speak? Where did you start realizing that, hey, it's really just about maybe having faith, you know, it's not really in the Bible. once you have been saved, is that it? Do you keep, does your faith keep you, a permanent ticket to heaven? Basically, my question, Jan, is how do you separate the man-made rules that we were raised so strictly on into, what really, really buys our way or earns our way into heaven?
Your questions are very in depth. So again, I'll try to make it as short as possible.
Thank you.
And obviously, I speak from a Christian view, as a Christian with a Christian worldview. Uh, Claims of Jesus Christ are very non-negotiable. He says, "I am the
All
way,
right.
the truth, and the life."
Yes.
So Christian faith is unique in comparison to other faiths, other sects, and other religions, because you can take any religion besides Christianity, and it is about rules, and it is about earning your way into heaven by living a good life and doing your best. Well, the Christian faith is radical because it really says there's only one way, there's only one door, and that is Jesus's life, death, and resurrection. And so his claims are black and white, so to speak, and we either accept those claims or we reject them. And somebody much smarter than me once says you have three options with Jesus. He either was a liar, or he was a lunatic, or he is Lord. And I think that is very helpful to communicate to others. Like when it comes to Jesus and his claims, he either was the greatest deceiver ever, or he was completely delusional, or he truly is God who came as a human being.
Wow. Wow, yeah, well, of course, we all know the truth to that. And of course, if it is a faith that you adhere to, you're listening here today and you are, what Jan is talking about resonates with you. Well, we've got a lot more for you guys because, Jan, I want to talk a little bit more about what you do, the Cost of Christ, which is an affiliate program. It publishes classic Christian ebooks, but 50% of the profits go back to churches and ministries. Jan, what was the inspiration behind this? You started this in 2009, 2019 rather. What was the inspiration behind this, and how's it going now?
Um, so the inspiration behind it is I'm also a writer myself. I love to write. I have written now over 20 books. And probably about, I don't know, about 6, 7, 8 years ago, I thought, why should I not use my own books as a means to raise funds? The persecuted church, and there are currently about 52 countries where the Bible is banned. The Bible is illegal. There's no religious freedom. So there's a scarcity of Bibles in those countries, including among believers. So the persecuted church has a special place in my heart. And so my desire is to raise funds for Bibles for those Christians who live in one of those 52 countries. And so I wanted to use my own writing, my own books as a means to raise funds. And then a couple of years ago, I discovered the whole public domain, which is that books written at least in America, because every country has their own rules when it comes to public domain books. But in America, everything written before 1927 is automatically in the public domain. And there are so many classic
Right.
Christian books out there
Yes, yes,
that are can be used as a means to raise funds. And so
yes.
that's how I set up an affiliate program.
Wow. And where you talk about, these are old classic Christian books, right? And they've
Yes.
entered public domain, and they go back into the ministries and the churches that publish them. How does that work?
So currently, I have about 200 different books, and I'm trying to make it as appealing as possible. So what I do is I group the books together from a particular author or are about a specific subject. So, for example, D.L. Moody was a famous American evangelist from the 1800s. And I believe I have about 26 books by him. And I call them book deals. And I offer these book deals for $4 each to make it so appealing that it's a no-brainer to purchase those books for just $4. And so I have 20 different book deals from either a particular author or are about a specific subject.
Okay, all right, all right. So the cost of Christ, ladies and gentlemen, of course, you can find that online as well. If you really, really, really want to learn more, also another project or another experiment rather that
Yeah.
Jan is involved in is what he's doing right now. It's called the Christian experiment. But before we get into that, rather, there's another thing I wanted to ask. It's called the Bible Challenge. You distributing Bibles through the Bible Challenge. You talked a little bit about that as well earlier. There's not much of a religious freedom in some parts of the world, and I believe the Bible Challenge is your way of tackling that. Talk to us about real quick about the inspiration about the Bible Challenge as well.
Yeah, the Bible Challenge and the Christian Experiment are basically synonymous. I kind of rebranded it as the Christian Experiment. And my personal goal is to distribute 100,000 Bibles to the persecuted church. That is a goal that
Wow.
I've had. So in order to accomplish that, I make an unbelievable offer. I sell the entire online bookstore for only $4. So that includes over 500 classic Christian books and also some other books that I wrote. Since 50% goes to Bibles, to the distribution of Bibles, we would need 300,000 Christians in order to distribute 100,000 Bibles. I am convinced that there are 300,000 Christians out there who would be more than willing to make a $4 purchase whereby they receive the 500 plus classic Christian ebooks.
Wow, that is so cool. Of course, again, I didn't know that number. That number is quite staggering, 300,000. But at least now that you found with the Bible Challenge, I think it's much more accessible, and you're tackling that number, so to speak, in your own way. And talk to us about how it becomes synonymous with the Christian experiment. Of course, the website is thechristianexperiment.com. What is this all about, Jan? What is the Christian experiment?
So, I mean, we have different experiments. We have scientific experiments, we have social experiments, we have thought experiments. And so I have called this the Christian experiment. And it's based on one simple question, and it's addressed to Christians. And the question is, if you could easily and freely help your brothers and sisters in Christ, would you
Yes.
do so? Now, that's a very reasonable question. And the question is against the backdrop of our social media, because in the last, decade, social media has skyrocketed. And there
Yes.
are Christians, there are churches, ministries, Christian news outlets that have 100,000 plus, 1 million plus, and some even have 10 million plus followers. For example, Franklin Graham. Franklin Graham, the son of Billy Graham, on Facebook, he has over 10 million Facebook followers. Now, my question with the Christian experiment would be, Franklin Graham, God has given you so much influence, and you're using that influence for a lot of good. But what if you could do more good? What if you could easily and freely help your persecuted brothers and sisters by sharing a
Yes.
Bible fundraiser for the persecuted church
Wow.
through your social media? Would you do so? And if not, why not?
Why not? Why
And
not?
that's the
Exactly.
experiment.
And it
Because
ties back kind
I've
of
been
like the
doing this.
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I've been
Go
doing
ahead. Go
this
ahead.
now for probably about a year. And in all honesty, I've been very disappointed in the excuses I've heard and in the apathy that I've seen. For example, and I won't name any names, but I reached out to a ministry that had stated that they have an email list to 600,000 pastors. And so I requested their cooperation, say, hey, um, if you send out this offer of all these books for just $4 to these 600,000 pastors, if only 10% were to participate and made a $4 purchase, this retired pastor would distribute 20,000 Bibles without any cost or effort on his part, just by sending one email. And the answer of the ministry was, well, we only share the writings of our founder. And to me, that was very disappointing because he is a Christian. The Bible is very clear that if he has an opportunity to do more good, and I'm not denying all the good that he is doing, but if he can easily and freely do more, why not?
Why not? Why not? That's precisely the question. And wow, I'm quite surprised. And of course, I feel the disappointment. I feel that there is this kind of like baffling sense of why aren't we doing this more often? And it leads back to the opening question is like, if you could help someone in need without any cost or effort, why would you not? And I feel like the experiment tries to answer the same or ask the same question in the context of Christianity, in that if you can spread the word of the Bible with very little cost and effort, why would you not? And Jan, you told us a little story about the disappointing part of it. How has it been so far, though? Do you feel like there has been some uh, good responses, or anything good or positive that has happened with the experiment so far?
So the experiment is basically all is set in place. I have not actively pursued it, which I'm going to try to do through YouTube and TikTok and Facebook. So at the moment, it's still in its infancy. But to me, it is, I feel very strongly about it because I use an example in my, and by the way, when you go to the christianexperiment.com, there are 3 free books that I wrote that you can read arguing from, hey, if you have an opportunity and without any cost or effort on your part, you can help your brothers and sisters in Christ, would you do so? And so I used an illustration, and I said, if, and then let's take Franklin Graham, and I don't want to put him on the spot, but let's say that he is traveling to a ministry event and he sees a devastating car crash. And he's the only witness. And he looks at his watch and says, well, I just don't have time. I'm doing God's will. I'm going to a ministry event. And he refuses to call 911, which is in America, obviously the number to call the proper authorities, whether the ambulance or the fire department or the police. And he refuses to do that and travels to the ministry event. I can guarantee that the media and his social media followers would be all over him, because it's totally unacceptable that he would not use his influence
Yes, of
to
course.
call 911 and help these people that are in a devastating car crash. So then I turn it back to the Christian experiment and I say, well, Franklin Graham, you have 10 million Facebook followers. You could share this Bible fundraiser for your persecuted brothers and sisters without any cost or effort on your part. Would
Yes, of
you
course.
do so? And if not, why not? And if not, should there be an outcry for not doing so? And I want to close, not close, but I want to add one thing. I said in one of the books, I said, in the secular world, companies are far more eager to cooperate with one another in order to make one extra buck than in the Christian world often help one extra person or distribute one extra Bible.
I mean, that right there is the disappointing part, so to speak. But at
It is.
least we have leaders like you, of course, Jan, and voices like you, who is asking these very important questions. And Jan, of course, we wish the best. We wish you success in all of this. And Jan, as we begin wrapping this up, what would be a final message that you would love to leave behind to the Christian community out there? And what is it that you see you hope to improve, things that you'd like to see in the future?
You know, you live in the Philippines, and obviously the Philippines is also known for incredible poverty and incredible needs. And in the US, because we have quote unquote more prosperity, we are often somewhat indifferent. But the need is so great, whether in the Philippines or throughout the world, the need is so great. And if there is an opportunity for Christians to do more without any cost or effort on their part, then I don't see any reason why one shouldn't do that. And that is, to me, the confronting question of the Christian experiment. And that's what because we have unprecedented influence through our social media, absolutely unprecedented. And never in the history of the world can one Christian reach millions of other Christians with just one click. But often it's used for their own platform. But what if they could use that platform for the benefit of others? Will they do so? And that's the big question of the
Yes,
Christian experiment.
that is a big question. And I feel like it's also a question in general, right? Like if you can help people, why not? Like if you can help people using the influence that we have, especially with social media, why not use it for that purpose? Jan, I'm glad that we had this opportunity to bring that onto our platform here today to talk about the Christian experiment. I thought that was very interesting. I'm glad that we brought that up today. Jan, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, it was my pleasure. Thank you for having me, and I greatly appreciate that.
Jan, pleasure is mine. The honor is mine. And of course, to all our audience and listeners out there, I hope this resonates with you guys. And if it does, make sure to check out thechristianexperiment.com and, of course, check out thecostofchrist.com. Jan, thank you so much for coming on the show.
All right, you're welcome.
To all our audience listeners out there, thank you for watching the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We will see you on the next one. Bye bye.
All right, so here's the thing. We try to get a little bit better every day, but we can't do it without you. So if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe below. And if you have any comments, just leave them in the space under.